Hello, everyone. It's the Wednesday edition of Daily BetSlip. It is myself. It is Reed Wallach, and new year, new us. Sports betting is going to continue. So not really new us because we're still going to bet on stuff every single day. We got college basketball. We got NHL. We got NBA tonight. Game of the night. I think it's the only college basketball game between two ranked teams. Unless it's Arkansas, Missouri might be another one. But it is TCU, the Horned Frogs, taking on the Baylor Bears in some Big 12 action. That's going to be game of the night. We also got community picks, as always. And we're going to talk about betting on NFL Week 18 and strategies that you can and maybe should use, because we all know Week 18 is, in my opinion, might be the hardest slate of betting on the sports betting calendar, with so many teams not starting guys, or some teams still fighting for a playoff spot. So we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. Reed, how are you doing today?
Good. Happy to be back. Loaded slate here. We got a lot going on, a lot to talk about. Pumped about Week 18 conversation. Like you said, I think it's easily the most difficult to decipher week of the NFL season. I mean, just in the last half hour, a line flipped from what I think is one team -3 to the other team now favored by 2. So like we can use that as an example when we get into that in a little bit. So a lot to talk about, a lot to get into. Pumped to be back.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what game we were referring to, but I guess we'll talk about it later.
Easier to keep people around for the next
exactly. Yeah, stay tuned to find out exactly what game Reed is talking about. Let's start with community picks, as always. Though we got some picks to go over from the BetSided community. I will say before we bring up this first one really quick. Last night, the rare time that all three of us were on the same side in the game of the night, myself, Peter, and the BetSided community, the poll all on Kansas over Texas Tech. Got scary at the end, got a little sweaty, but Kansas did pull through. So
nice.
It's pretty rare that when all three of us are on the same side of cash as it did last night. So we'll see what the poll says for TCU Baylor a little bit later. What a time to be a TCU fan, eh? National championship, nationally ranked in college basketball. Go Frogs. All right, let's bring up the first community pick here. Western Carolina. This comes in from Underdog betting specialist at Underdog Special. Western Carolina money line plus 250 for half a unit. East Tennessee is 3-8 straight up in their last 11 games and 0-7 ATS in their last 7 games at home. Western Carolina 4-1 straight up in their last 5 games. Western Carolina 3 points made.
Yeah,
16th to 293rd. 3-point percentage 103rd to 306th. Free throw percentage 134th. 320th. Rebounding 37th to 164th. Ooh, pretty good breakdown yourself there, Underdog. It's not a game that I looked into. Obviously, based on your Twitter name, you do like betting underdogs. You like betting underdog money lines. I like it. I don't see any reason why not. Reed, do you have any thoughts for this one?
No, 60, 40, 50, 60 games tonight. Didn't get a chance to look at Western Carolina. I see it, though. I mean, especially the 3-pointers. Maybe that's like the variance you need to cash an underdog at. Plus 250. So I don't hate the look at all. Why not? Especially with East Tennessee's floundering like they are.
Seems a little too obvious. Obviously, sometimes the obvious bet is the right bet, but that big of an underdog, 8-7 going against 6-9 East Tennessee. And I think someone else who sent in a pick is on West Carolina as well. But we'll get to that here. Maybe it's a next pick. I don't think so, though. But let's go ahead and bring up the next pick. I like it. Not a game I have too many extra thoughts on. Eric Bird at eBird1, Nevada, Colorado State under 141. No breakdown. It doesn't help us, especially because I think the both of us were focusing on some other sports and maybe just the Power 5 games for tonight. We were writing our articles earlier today. Do you have anything at all to help us out here on Nevada or Colorado State? Reed.
Honestly, I did look into this one. And my initial thought when I saw the number was I like Colorado State, but after I remember, what was it, last week maybe when they went to go play New Mexico, they ended up getting blasted in that game. I remember I think it was like first half was a community bet. New Mexico gashed them for 88. San Jose State 78. I don't think that this Colorado State defense is all that good, honestly. Nevada, not a huge Nevada guy. Again, I thought I wanted to bet on Colorado State early on, but I don't know. I couldn't get myself there on the road. I don't know. There was just something throwing me off of the game, so I stayed away. But for what it's worth, if you like both defenses, both offenses are bottom 50 in offensive rebounding rate. So one trip and done. Colorado State plays a little fast, but I don't mind the under, I guess, if I had to pick a side.
Yeah, Nevada's a 4 to 4.5, depending on where you're looking, point favorite. It is the final game of the night. It tips off at 10:30 p.m. Eastern tonight. I will say something that would help your under bet here that I just quickly looked up while Reed was talking. Colorado State, and this should probably not come as a surprise to too many people. Colorado State, and any team in Colorado usually performs a lot better at home. Their effective field goal percentage drops 7.8% from at home to on the road. So if that trend keeps up tonight, Colorado State's not going to be shooting as well as they have at home this season, which would obviously lead to an under. So that's what I have to contribute. Best of luck. Not a game that I'll be betting on unless I am bored and wide awake at 10:30. Then I might place a last-second bet just for funsies because it is the final game of the night. But let's keep things rolling here. Let's bring up the next one. Chips at Chips Picks Daily coming in with his classic NHL pick here. Devils minus 155. Says Devils are 2-6-2 in their last 10 with an extremely difficult schedule. Still ranked 4th in Corsi percentage, 9th in expected goals percentage in that time frame. They're ranked 25th in shooting percentage, but have scored 4 goals in 4 of their last 5 games since December 12th. Detroit ranks 27th in Corsi percentage. Yes, I have 3 NHL picks for tonight, 1 for each game, and this is one of them. So myself and Chips, I feel like we are on opposite sides quite often. Tonight we are on the same side. I think you're getting a pretty good price on the Devils. My other 2 NHL picks I'll be giving out on the show coming up here in a little bit. But because I saw Chips was sitting in this pick, I thought I left off my Devils pick so I could just talk about it now. So yeah, Chips and I both on the Devils. I'd probably price them more at around like minus 175, minus 180 tonight. So I think we're getting a little bit of value there at minus 155.
Jersey pride. I love it. Go Devils.
There you go. Go Devils. Let's keep things rolling. This is the other Western Carolina game. I see him in the chat there as well. Practical Picks at practical_picks. Give me Western Carolina. The Catamounts plus 7.5 tonight and put some damn respect on their name. Give me them at plus 250 money line for a half unit as well. Woo! There you go. We got 2 people sprinkling a little bit on Western Carolina. I might, you know what? Maybe I will just jump on. I'll jump on. If two different guys are on, I'll do it. Let's go. He also chimed in the chat saying ETSU 0-5 ATS at home.
It feels like a big number. Feels like a big number to lay.
Yes.
I looked at Western Carolina isn't it's definitely not North Carolina. I mean, they're outside, like hanging around like 300th in like all advanced metrics.
Yep. 284th in effective field goal percentage.
For what it's worth, they beat Furman at home by 12. Furman, one of the best teams in the SoCon. So maybe.
Yeah. Only 114th in turnovers per possession, so they don't turn the ball over a ton. All right, I'll jump on for funsies. All right, let's keep things rolling here. Or is that it? Do we have one more? Or is that it? We do have one more. Yes, I wanted to bring this up. I saw that you responded on Twitter, but our good friend Chelsea Messenger asked Reed if the Nets are a trap tonight. Are the Nets a trap tonight, Reed? I haven't looked at NBA, so I don't even know. I don't even know who they're playing.
I was looking at this line. Nets are laying 5.5 against the number. Not sure if I could get there. The Bulls are a team that confused me a ton. They're like advanced metrics aren't bad whatsoever. A lot of talent, obviously. Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, guy who kills the Nets all the time, Nikola Vucevic. But I don't know. Nets are really like I know like I'm obviously biased and I'm a Nets fan, but like when I say the Nets are on an absolute tear right now, like they are destroying teams, good and bad. Number 1 in offensive and defensive rating over the last 2 weeks. They're since December 1st, so pretty much the last month, they're 13-1. Their offensive rating in that time would be better than any offensive rating ever in NBA history. Ironically, beating the James Harden. That's the year they got him in trade. So, they're really rolling. So I wouldn't step in front of the train, but I wouldn't necessarily ride the Nets. I do think that this might be a tricky spot for them on the road. Laying 5.5. They did play 2 really poor opponents in the last 2 games in the Hornets and Spurs, and they destroyed both. So maybe it's a little inflated, but I have a prop on this one we're going to get to in best bets. So we'll talk about this game a little bit more.
Yes, you have bet on a player prop for a Brooklyn Nets 4 for the Brooklyn Nets in every single one of their games this season, so that'll continue tonight. But yeah, I wish we had a soundboard. We need a soundboard, and the first sound effect that needs to come on it is Admiral Akbar. It's trap. Yeah, so maybe a trap, maybe not a trap though. Is your response? It sounds like.
Yeah, it's a no touch though. This isn't like
a no touch.
Nets keep steamrolling. Also, like Bulls just let up 71 to Donovan Mitchell and blew like a 20-point lead and lost in overtime to the Cavs. So like maybe it's like a bounce back spot. I don't know. A lot of weird dynamics for this one.
All right, let's get into our best bets for tonight then. I have 2 in the NHL, 1 in college basketball. Reed, you have 2 in college basketball, and then you have your player prop in the NBA. So, and then, of course, we will have our pick for TCU Baylor at the end of the show as well. But, Reed, why don't you start us off with your first college basketball pick?
Yeah, we're going to go with Iowa State +3 against Oklahoma. Don't like this Oklahoma team at all. This has been a team I've been looking to fade it. Haven't done so all that successfully just yet, but I think that when you look at the teams that Oklahoma has lost to Villanova on the road, I just think that was a game they lost, tight game. But then the other 3 is where I'm really locking in, though. They lost to Sam Houston State in the opener, they lost to Arkansas, and they lost to Texas. What is in common with all of those teams? Turnover-heavy defenses. Sam Houston State, 7th nationally in turnover rate. Arkansas, 10th nationally in turnover rate. Texas, 20th nationally in turnover rate. Guess what Iowa State does better than any team in the country? Ian?
Iowa State?
Yeah. They turn their opponent over at a higher rate than any team in the country. 30% turnover rate. They just absolutely swarm with their ball pressure. I think that they can keep this close. Not necessarily the best situational spot with Iowa State just beating Baylor, but I do think Iowa State can keep this close. I think they're a better team. So I'll take +3. I think you get 3.5 in the market as well. So yeah, go Clones. I've been trying to fade the Sooners team. I don't trust their offense to hold up against ball pressure.
Yes, Iowa State, the best team in forcing turnovers. Do you know who the number 10 ranked team is?
Is it UC Irvine?
No.
Or no, I just said Arkansas.
The 10th ranked team?
In terms of protecting the ball or turning it over?
Forcing turnovers.
I don't know who.
We'll talk about it a little bit later.
Okay.
Stick around for the end of the show, folks. I wrote the betting preview for this game on FanSided, and I put in Oklahoma, but I'm actually not betting it myself. I lean Oklahoma though. Iowa State's they're kind of opposite teams because Iowa State doesn't really shoot the ball really well, but they do a lot of things like force turnovers really well. They do a lot of things like play defense really well, and then Oklahoma is kind of the polar opposite where they shoot really well, but then some of those fundamental things they don't quite do as well. So it's like, which do you value more? Forcing turnovers and playing defense, or just straight up shooting? I don't know. So it's a little bit of a stay away for me, but I don't hate it. I wouldn't argue one way or the other. Let's Cody Wells is chiming in with a pick. Let's get to this really quick here before I give up my first college basketball play. Cody Wells says Missouri at Arkansas over 154. He lists some stats here. I'm not going to read them off, but he says this should be an entertaining game with both teams running. I love this game to go over. Last night I bet an over in Texas and Kansas State, I think it was, and it went over by like 80 points. It was one of the easiest overs I've ever cashed.
Didn't Kansas State hit like triple digits?
Yeah, I think they did. And I think the total was at 140. So like when I say it went over by like 80 points, it literally almost went over by 80 points. 116 to 103. And I think the total was 141. So yeah, it went over by 70 points.
Yeah.
No. Fit somewhere around there. Anyways, did you look at Missouri, Arkansas? I did. I meant to. I didn't get a chance to.
Yeah, Missouri's a team I've been playing. I think I was on the show and I said I had Missouri versus Kentucky. They won. This Missouri team keeps rolling here. I don't know. I kind of like Missouri with the points. Arkansas doesn't actually grade out as well as I think they have in the past. I know, your tattoo bet with Arkansas the year before. I was high on them going into the tournament. They made a great run. They can't shoot the ball at all this year. So they play really fast, but they need to get inside. So we'll see if they're able to do that from a total perspective. Possessions-wise, sure, but I'm not dying to get involved in this game. On the road, Missouri, they've been rolling quite a bit. Lean Tigers, because I think that they are legit. This isn't like a fluke, but I don't know. I can't get involved here.
Yeah, Missouri's second in the country in effective field goal percentage. They're shooting the lights out this season. 63.3% over their last 3 games. Bananas.
Yeah.
All right, my first college basketball play for tonight. It is the Big Ten matchup between Michigan and Penn State, and I will take Michigan minus 3.5 here. I got the juice I got on this is minus 115 for what it's worth. The Penn State, their biggest advantage they have over basically every single team that they play against is they don't turn the ball over. To keep on the topic of turnovers here, only turn the ball over 12.7% of their possessions. So basically every single game they play in, they already have a huge turnover advantage. They won't tonight because the team that's second in turnovers per possession is Michigan. So neither team going to be coughing up the ball a ton. I actually kind of like the over because of that, but I'm going to stick with Michigan here. They might struggle also to get a lot going on offense. Penn State shoots the ball, a three ball a ton, 12th in three-point shot rate, and Michigan has played extremely well on the perimeter on defense lately. Over their last 3 games, or teams are shooting only 24.3% from beyond the arc against them. So I'll take Michigan here in the Big Ten matchup, minus 3.5 against Penn State.
Yeah, I lean this way as well. Didn't play it. Maybe I'll join you. I honestly agree with you, though. I think that this is a good spot for Michigan. I mean, they just absolutely dump trucked Maryland.
Yes.
Like 81-46. So maybe they're turning a corner. Penn State's been playing well, but they live and die by the 3. So on the road, conference play, like that could easily get a ride from you. So even with both teams playing kind of slow, I lean towards Michigan. I think that they could do enough to pull away here.
Yes, I agree. All right, you have another college basketball play for tonight. A little mid-major matchup.
Yeah, I played Drake +1 against Southern Illinois. Drake has dominated this matchup 5 in a row, going up back the last 2 years. And I was digging around on shot quality now that college football's over, kind of digging up some more season-long notes. Drake is 100th in shot quality, adjusted shot quality efficiency. Southern Illinois is 203rd. This is a team that takes a ton of threes, and that's it. They are top 15 in three-point rate, so if it's not falling, it's not going to get going. And Drake really has the wings to give this Salukis team trouble. Guys like DeVries, guys like Calhoun, they've given trouble to Southern Illinois all the past 2 years. So I like Drake here. I think they're going to generate enough offense. Total is so low, 126.5. So each position is going to be important. I trust Drake's offense more than Southern Illinois, so I'll take them +1 a series that they've dominated of late. So I like Drake catching a point against Southern Illinois.
There you go. If you're looking for some mid-major action, there's a bet for you. Drake +1 against Southern Illinois. I'm switching over to the ice now. 2 NHL plays I already talked about earlier. I'm on Devils money line with chips, but my other 2, my first one is the Lightning. Very, very slight underdogs against the Minnesota Wild here. The Lightning are starting to get hot. I'm going to ride their momentum. 8-2 over their last 10 games, starting to hit their stride a bit. They have been scoring 3.77 goals during this 10-game stretch. That's the 4th most in the NFL over each team's last 10 games. But also what's even more important, Andre Vasilevsky is finally starting to look like the goaltender that we've come to know. He struggled a little bit by his standards early in the year, but he's getting hot. He's allowed only 1 goal in 4 of his last 7 games. He's improved his save percentage up to .921. So I expect him to stay hot tonight. So I will back Tampa Bay as a very slight underdog. I believe they're on the road in Minnesota, -105.
Are the Lightning still contenders for the Cup? Okay.
Yes, very much so. And it's a very real possibility that it'll be who the Leafs will face in the first round again this year, unfortunately. All right, you got Nets. You've been betting on a player prop in every single Nets game this season. What's your player prop for tonight?
Yeah, hit a bunch in a row, so maybe I'll cool off. I'm now on the year 33-19 so far this year, plus 19.06 units. So, yeah, it's going well so far. No, ladder or anything like that, but just keep it simple. Kevin Durant, over 1.5 threes, -120. Took 5 threes per game over the past month. Only took 1 against the Spurs, but before that in December, took 5 threes per game. The Bulls are allowing the 6th highest three-point rate this season, so letting teams chuck from 3. Durant only needs 2. Coming off 3 straight games where he went under this, where he only hit 1, 1, 0. So I think you're going to see some regression. I think you're getting a decent price here on Durant, over 1.5 threes. High total also. This total is at 236.5. Teams are expected to score. Kevin Durant loves to score. He's the best at scoring, in my opinion. So I'll take over 1.5 threes for KD.
There you go. Pretty straightforward. Surprised. I guess maybe I just assumed that KD would shoot more threes than. I feel
Honestly,
like minus 120 is a decent price on that.
yeah, and like I said, he's taking 5 threes per game over the past month, give or take. So
Right.
the volume is ticking up, especially as like Kyrie Irving's getting to the rim now. It's kind of opening the floor up a little bit more. So I think it's a good spot to get in on Durant over 1.5 threes, especially if this game's a little bit competitive. He hasn't played the fourth quarter in the past 2 games, so it's been kind of depressing his offensive numbers. I actually think this is a great spot for like a KD outburst, like where hangs like high 30s, 40 points. Honestly, I think Durant might have a big night.
All right, my final bet is back to the ice here. I'm taking a puck line bet. I don't love taking puck lines. I got to do it here or there. I'll take Stars minus 1.5 plus 125 against the Ducks. I bet against the Stars last night. It worked for me. I took the Kings as home underdogs. I'm going to take them on the puck line tonight as they continue their California trip here as I head to Anaheim. The Ducks, I've been saying all year that the Coyotes are the worst team in the NHL. I think the Ducks are starting to convince me that they're actually the worst team. They suck. Dead last in NHL in Corsi percentage over their last 10 games at 41.09%. Their average scoring margin over their last 10 games is minus 2.07. Do you know how hard it is in the NHL to lose by over an average of 2 goals per game? That is insane. So there are very few times that I will feel comfortable betting on a puck line. I've stayed away from them for the most part this season, which has actually been to my benefit. I'm up over 5 units on the year. But tonight, plus money on the Stars. They should be able to handle Anaheim. I'll take them plus 125, minus 1.5. And might come down to an empty netter, but if it does, it does. I got to fade this Ducks team. I should have been fading them a lot sooner.
Love it.
All right, so there you go. Those are our best bets. We still got bets coming up later in the show when we're talking Baylor and TCU in our game of the night. But first, let's recap our best bets so far. There you go. I'm on Michigan minus 3.5 in the Big Ten game tonight in college basketball. For hockey, I'm on Devils. You don't see it on the recap, but I do like the Devils on the money line tonight. I also like Lightning minus 105 and the Stars minus 1.5 plus 125. Reed, you're on Iowa State. Cyclones plus 3 against Oklahoma. Drake plus 1 against Southern Illinois. And for your Nets player prop of the night, you got over 1.5. Kevin Durant, 3-pointers. Beautiful. All right, let's talk NFL Week 18. It is, as I mentioned before, it's a little bit of a tough week to handicap. It is my least favorite week of the year to handicap because I'm a very stats-based handicapper. I try not to put motivation or things like that, things that we can't measure into my handicapping, but that's kind of all you have to handicap Week 18, because especially teams who don't have anything to play for, or even teams who kind of want to lose, and then there's teams who won't be playing any of their starters. So how do you use stats on a team where none of the players playing contribute to those stats all season? So we both go, let's kind of open it up. We both have some points that we're going to talk about, but this is a little bit of an open conversation to hopefully help some people figure out how they should bet on this weekend's game. So Reed, any initial thoughts?
Yeah, I guess let's start with what I led with, in the show open. The game I was talking about is the Chargers-Broncos. So what happened? This happened like within 10 minutes before we came on the air. So I want to make sure I describe this correctly. But the Chargers were about a 3.5 point favorite because there's still an incentive for the Chargers to play this weekend. As we thought, because the Ravens or the Chargers could still leapfrog the Ravens if they were able to. Now, the Ravens-Bengals game was announced to be played at 1 o'clock this weekend. So, Chargers at 4:25. So, first of all, let's start with the Ravens-Bengals game. The Bengals are 7-point favorites. Lamar didn't practice today. Tyler Huntley's on the limited participant in practice. So, there's actually a likelihood that the Ravens are just going to get steamrolled by the Bengals, right? The Bengals are very likely to win. They're laying a touchdown. Winner wins the division. If the Ravens lose that game, the Chargers are locked into the 5 seed. So, there's actually no incentive for the Chargers to win that. There's no incentive for Justin Herbert to play. There's no incentive for Austin Eckler or anybody else to play on the Chargers, which means the Broncos are actually more likely to win. And we see this in the market now where the Chargers went from a 3-point favorite, 3.5 point favorite to now a 2.5 point underdog, as bettors are expecting Justin Herbert's not going to play, or key Chargers players, or they'll play a half or something. So, that's something you need to be aware of. Where is the motivation? Just another few games. The Falcons, Buccaneers. The Bucs are a 4-point underdog, and someone who may just jump in on Sunday say, "Oh, that's weird. Why are the Bucks catching 4 against the Falcons? The Bucks won the division. They have Tom Brady. Tom Brady's probably not playing more than a half at most, probably closer to a quarter. It's a preseason game for the Bucks. They are locked into the 4 seed. They cannot go up or down. There's no incentive for them to play. Meanwhile, the Falcons, your Falcons, Ian, Desmond Ritter's 4th start, I believe. Maybe there's a little bit of incentive to, hey, let's get the guy cooking a little bit. Let's see if he could build some momentum with Drake London. The defense may be motivated. I know as my camera moves, I know the Bucks beat the Falcons in a controversial game earlier this season. So maybe the Falcons want to get the win against the Bucks in what is essentially a meaningless preseason game. So these are things you need to be aware of before you go place your bets come Sunday.
Yeah, those are all great points. I'll say just a side note, you made me think of it when you talk about Bucks Falcons. The Falcons, they do have something to play for, and maybe they don't care about it as much as I care about it, but I'm firmly on record about how much I hate Tom Brady. And the Falcons get a chance to break a certain streak. Tom Brady, 9-0 against my Atlanta Falcons. So
there you go.
This game is big for me. I just want to, Tom Brady has to start the game. I don't think he has to finish the game. If he starts the game, then I think that counts against his record against the Falcons. So Falcons better win this game to break that 9-0 streak. 9-0 against my Falcons.
Yeah, so I just think motivation is going to be questioned all over. I think you need to be aware of that. Don't think that there's some mistake. You know what I mean? There's probably a good reason why these lines are where they are. Don't think, I know we're going to get into it with the incentives too. If we're talking about it, smarter people probably know about it already. You know what I mean? So, this Chargers move is likely because the Chargers are likely sitting their players, or the likelihood that they're going to, and people are getting ahead of that. So, definitely something to keep an eye on in this week. Just for example, Justin Fields isn't playing this week, and that's why the Vikings are laying 8. Probably not enough, to be honest with you, because the Vikings technically need the game as well. So just keep that in mind as you're moving through the week here.
I will say, to counter that point a little bit, motivation, it's a little bit tricky because it's not like every team is in a situation where they want to win is going to win. Sometimes it's a team that literally needs to win to make the playoffs, and they're 10-point favorites, and then they lose outright. Who was it a couple? Years ago? Was it the Bengals beat the Ravens? I think in Week 18 to knock them out of the playoffs. Right? Yes, that's right. And then a bunch of, I think that allowed the Bills to get in the playoffs for the first time in forever. I think, and then a bunch of Bills fans donated to Andy Dalton's charity, if I remember, when Andy Dalton was on the Bengals. So my point is, just because you do think one team is more motivation, don't just go ahead and blindly bet them. Look at the spread.
Absolutely. Factored in as well. It's factored in.
Yes, for sure. So the thing I wanted to bring up was player incentives if you're going to bet player props. Now, I do have a caveat to this that'll say at the end, but Sal Vetri, at Sal Vetri DFS, tweeted out a pretty good, you might have saw it already today, tweeted out a pretty good thread today listing 13 player incentives you should know for Week 18. So if you don't know, players have certain incentives in their contracts. If they hit their mark, then they get more money. So there's going to be some players that even if they're eliminated from the playoffs, they're going to be trying the very best to hit that incentive, and you can try to take advantage of that from a betting perspective. One that he has listed that's very straightforward here. Patrick Mahomes. Now, this isn't a contract incentive. This is a record. But Patrick Mahomes can set the passing yards record against the Raiders in Week 18. He needs 430 yards. That is an insane number. But his prop is 900 or 290.5. So if he goes for it at all, maybe there's a chance that he goes over that number. Couple other ones here. Gerald Everett needs 5 catches to cash in on a $250,000 bonus. So that is a contract incentive. And he faces the Broncos, who allow the 3rd most catches to tight end. So there's these certain spots where you can kind of match up incentives with players that are going to play, with, stylistic matchups you can take advantage of. My caveat to it, though, is don't think sportsbooks don't know this. Obviously, sportsbooks have heard of incentives. They are probably adjusting their player prop market to counteract that. So don't think that you know something that sportsbooks don't know. But still, maybe even in that area, like the Gerald Everett one, maybe because Denver gives up the third most catches to tight ends, maybe it's worth betting anyway. So something to consider one way or another, but certainly don't think sportsbooks don't know about incentives.
Yeah, absolutely. I almost think like the Mahomesian one, maybe the Justin Jefferson one is maybe a better example in this case, but the ones that are like almost ridiculous to achieve, like I think Justin Jefferson needs like 180 yards, which is like a monster day, because you can't make the prop 180 and a half yards, right? Like, can he break the record? But they can make it like maybe inflated a little bit, but or you think that the Vikings are going to let Jefferson go against this corpse of a Bears defense. Maybe still take it and go for some alt numbers on the idea that, hey, I could create a long shot bet to get Jefferson to this number. I think the one where it's like maybe he will try and go for it is almost better than the Gerald Everett, who like I don't even know his numbers, but let's say he averages like 3 catches a game. They make you pay a tax. It's like 4.5. Is he going to get it? Like, I almost like the real outlier ones. Like, he needs to go nuts to get it. I almost think that creates a better betting opportunity for you because the tax can't go all the way. But yeah, no, I think these are things that are like absolutely necessary to know if you're betting this week, especially, touchdown markets, 2 touchdown markets, if guys have touchdown incentives, make sure you know that. I mean, again, like I was talking about with players getting benched, like for some of these teams, this is a preseason game. Maybe the ones play a few series just to stay fresh, whatever. But keep an eye on like third string tight ends in the anytime touchdown market, especially like Tampa Bay. If they say Brady's playing, he's not playing more than a half. Start looking at those third, fourth string receivers. Maybe Blaine Gabbert hits a few for a touchdown in the second half against the Falcons defense. So I think, motivation, incentives, these are all things, it's similar like bowl season. You got to know where the motive or try and handicap where the motivation is more than necessarily the on-field stuff.
For sure. Cody Wells brings up another example. Colts lost to the Jags by $1 million last year. So yeah, that's a little bit more recent example than what I gave. But yeah, Colts, all they had to do is win against what ended up being the worst team in the NFL. They're the first overall pick regardless. Jacksonville. They just needed to beat them in week 18 last year, and they lost by like 30 points or something. So yeah, maybe you might want to target some of these big underdogs. Who knows? Who knows what could happen? All right, let's talk game of the night. We're getting back to college basketball. It is TCU against Baylor, 2 ranked Big 12 opponents going against each other. 6-point spread, I believe it is, in favor of Baylor. 6-point home favorites. Reed, what's your look for this game?
Yeah, of course, conference play. Yeah, Baylor's laying 6. Conference game. Baylor has kind of had TCU's number of late. I like the under, though. I think this matchup sets up well for Baylor, who just lost to Iowa State. I mentioned that before, but TCU is all about getting to the rim. They have a terrible 3-point perimeter offense. They are shooting 29% from 3, 333rd in the country in 3-point percentage. Baylor's defense shuts off the interior. Their no-middle defense is fantastic. Second in shot proximity to the rim. So they force teams outside the paint. So if TCU is going to have to shoot jumpers, that's not going to, spell a successful night for them. Meanwhile, on the other side, Baylor, they love to shoot the 3, but TCU funnels you inside, and they play real physical. They defend the interior very well. 22nd in interior defense, a 2-point percentage allowed. So I think this is going to be more of a defensive struggle than this is being led on to be. I mean, this open 142, now it's 144. I disagree. I like the under. I think you're going to see this game played in the 60s, and I think it's going to be a competitive game. TCU is a team I'm buying long-term also. So it's going to be a really good game. I just think both defenses went out in this matchup.
All right, yeah, if I was betting on the total, I'd go under as well. I'm going to go TCU, though. I'm going to take the Horned Frogs +6 here in this spot. Fun fact, Baylor lost to Iowa State 77-62 back on New Year's Eve. And the point you brought up earlier about Iowa State, lead the country in opponent turnovers per possession. Baylor coughed the ball up 19 times in that loss to Iowa State. They are 259th in the country in turnovers per possession. So they struggle when they take on a team that loves to force a ton of turnovers. And as I hinted to earlier, the team that is 10th in the country, so not too far behind Iowa State in forcing turnovers, it is the TCU Horned Frogs. If they can do anything similar to what Iowa State did to Baylor, I think Baylor could be in for a long night here. TCU Obviously not the best shooting team in the country, but very good defensively. Not just good at forcing turnovers. 7th in defensive efficiency, 18th in opponent effective field goal percentage. Actually very similar to this Iowa State team that completely handled Baylor on New Year's Eve. So if that was a stylistic matchup that hurt Baylor, they now need to face a team that has a very similar stylistic method of play here. So I think TCU can at least keep this game close. Wasn't brave enough to go money line, but I'll take the 6 points.
Yeah, no, I lean towards the TCU side as well. It just feels like a lot of points to give in what I think is going to be a competitive conference showdown. And yeah, I think the turnovers kind of lends itself to an under game. I don't think you're going to see a lot of transition opportunities here. I think it's going to be a grind. I think that this is going to be a physical matchup. So yeah, I think we see eye to eye here.
Yes, I agree. And also the community does as well. Community's on TCU +6. I'd rather be on the opposite side than be on his community, but we were all on the same side last night and we cashed. So let's make it 2 in a row. Were you on the show Monday or no?
No.
Okay. So I don't know if the community won or not on Monday, but let's assume they did. Let's go 3-0 in the week.
Let's do it.
So that is our show. Earlier today, the early read went live. So as soon as we stop this broadcast, go ahead and check that. I'm going to guess you talked college football national championship, Reed. Is that correct?
Yeah, not much else to talk about. So we talked some national championship. It was a great show. Really got into the weeds in terms of like projected game script, how we see this going down. And yeah, Cody Malsham was a great guest. Please check it out while you can on the YouTube page. And of course, like and subscribe.
Yeah, you've talked a lot of TCU today.
Yeah, big. Like you said, this is like a Horned Frogs renaissance here. Or not even. This is the coming out party kind of.
My favorite football player of all time went to TCU. Do you know who it is?
Well, Daniel Tomlinson.
Correct. Yes.
Do you know his son plays for the team?
His son's on the. I did not know that.
Cornerback. Really good. Probably the league, honestly.
Wow, that's sweet. Unreal. LT. All right, that is our show. Any final thoughts, Reed?
No, let's have a winning night, and happy to be back.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like the video. Give us a subscribe. Best of luck with all your bets tonight. Gamble or bless. I'll talk to you tomorrow with Peter Dewey. He's trying to see who's going to co-host with me. It's myself and Peter Dewey, 5 p.m. tomorrow. Tune in.